Captain Marcus Chen stood in the grand throne room of the Zephyrian Empire, feeling very small despite his 6-foot frame. The ceiling stretched high above him, made of clear crystal that let in the purple light of 2 suns. Golden pillars twisted up like frozen lightning, and the floor beneath his boots sparkled with tiny gems. He had seen many alien worlds during his 5 years as a diplomatic officer, but nothing quite like this. Marcus adjusted his formal blue uniform and checked his translation device one more time. This was supposed to be a simple trade meeting. Earth needed the Zephyrians' advanced energy crystals, and the Zephyrians wanted human agricultural technology. Both sides would benefit. Easy. The massive doors at the far end of the throne room opened with a soft chime. Marcus straightened his shoulders as the Zephyrian royal court entered. They moved like dancers, their 4 arms flowing gracefully at their sides. Their skin shimmered with colors that changed from blue to silver as they walked. Each one wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight, but it was Princess Lyralee who took Marcus's breath away. She glided into the room with perfect poise, her crystalline blue skin catching the purple sunlight and throwing it back, in rainbow patterns. Her 4 arms moved in harmony as she walked, 2 folded elegantly behind her back, 2 gesturing as she spoke to her advisors. Her hair was white as snow and seemed to float around her face like she was underwater. Most striking were her eyes. They were the deep purple of her planet's night sky, filled with intelligence and something else Marcus couldn't identify. "Captain Chen of Earth," announced the court herald, his voice echoing through the crystal chamber. "You stand before Her Royal Highness, Princess Lyralee of the House of Stars, heir to the Zephyrian Empire." Marcus bowed as he had been taught during his diplomatic training. "Your Highness, I am honored to meet you. I bring greetings from Earth and hope for friendship between our peoples." Princess Lyralee stepped forward, and Marcus noticed she was taller than him by several inches. When she smiled, her whole face seemed to glow with inner light. "Captain Chen," she said. Her voice like music played on crystal bells. "I have been waiting to meet you for so long." That was odd. The meeting had only been arranged 3 weeks ago. Marcus smiled politely. "I'm pleased to be here, Your Highness. I hope we can reach an agreement that benefits both our worlds." The princess tilted her head, looking confused. Around the throne room, the other Zephyrians began to whisper among themselves. Their whispers sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Agreement?" Princess Lyralee asked. "But Captain Chen, our families have already made the most important agreement of all." She spread all 4 of her arms wide, addressing not just Marcus but the entire court. "Our family energies have chosen us to be married human. The stars themselves have blessed our bond." The crystal throne room erupted into celebration. Zephyrians began singing in harmony, their voices creating music that seemed to make the very walls hum with joy. Flower petals that glowed like tiny stars began, falling from hidden panels in the ceiling. The court members clapped their hands, all 4 hands each, in a rhythm that sounded like rain on a crystal roof. Marcus felt like someone had hit him with a stun weapon. "Married?" he said, but his voice was lost in the celebration. "Princess..." Lyralee approached him, her purple eyes bright with happiness. "Yes, dear Marcus. The energy readers confirmed it just yesterday. Your spirit frequency matches mine perfectly. In 3,000 years of Zephyrian history, there has never been such a perfect match between families." "But I don't understand," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice calm even though his heart was beating like a drum. "There was no mention of marriage in any of our diplomatic communications. I'm here to discuss trade agreements." The princess looked genuinely surprised. "Trade agreements? But those are for distant acquaintances." "We are to be bonded, Marcus." Your family's energy signature called out to mine across the stars. "When we received your diplomatic request, our energy readers immediately detected the connection. Did your people not feel it too? Marcus looked around the celebrating court, then back at Princess Lyralei's hopeful face. This was either the biggest misunderstanding in diplomatic history, or something much more complicated was happening. "Your Highness," he said carefully, "I think there might be some confusion. On Earth, marriages are personal choices made by individuals. Families don't arrange them, and we certainly don't have energy readers who can detect spiritual connections across space." The celebration around them began to quiet as other court members noticed their conversation. Princess Lyralei's expression shifted from joy to concern. "But that's impossible," she said softly. "The energy bond between families is sacred. When the cosmic forces align two spirits for bonding, it must be honored. To ignore such a gift from the universe would bring terrible misfortune to both families." An elderly Zephyrian with golden skin stepped forward. His forearms were decorated with ribbons of authority, and his eyes held the wisdom of centuries. "Your Highness," he said, bowing to both Marcus and the princess, "perhaps the human customs are different from ours. Maybe we should explain our ways more clearly." "Yes, Grand Advisor Zephon," the princess said, though she still looked worried. "Marcus, please understand. When our energy readers detected your family's spiritual signature, they found something remarkable. Your human determination and courage creates a perfect harmony with our Zephyrian wisdom and grace. Together, our bonded energies could bring peace and prosperity to both our peoples for generations." Marcus felt sweat on his forehead despite the cool crystal air. This was way beyond his diplomatic training. He was supposed to negotiate trade deals, not navigate alien marriage proposals. "Your Highness," he said slowly, "I am deeply honored by this opportunity, but I need to contact my superiors on Earth. This is not something I can decide alone." Princess Lyralei nodded, though she still looked concerned. "Of course, Marcus. But please remember, in our culture, once a bonding is announced publicly, it becomes binding. The cosmic forces are already at work bringing our energies together." As if to prove her point, Marcus suddenly felt a strange warmth in his chest, like sunlight spreading through his body. For just a moment, he could swear he felt something, a connection to the beautiful alien princess standing before him. Grand. Advisor Zephon clapped his hands once, and the celebration gradually came to an end. "Captain Chen will be our honored guest while we await Earth's response," he announced. "Prepare the star chamber for our future prince consort." As Marcus was escorted from the throne room by smiling Zephyrian guards, he looked back once more at Princess Lyralei. She was watching him with those deep purple eyes, and he couldn't shake the feeling that his simple trade mission had just become something much more complicated. The massive crystal doors closed behind him with a musical chime, and Marcus realized his life might never be the same again. Marcus woke up in the most beautiful room he had ever seen. The walls were made of smooth crystal that changed color with the morning light. Purple and gold patterns danced across the ceiling like living art. A gentle melody played from somewhere. In the walls, soft enough to be relaxing but clear enough to wake him peacefully. He sat up on the floating bed. Yes, it actually floated 3 feet above the floor, and rubbed his eyes. For a moment, he hoped yesterday had been a strange dream. Then he saw the formal invitation sitting on the crystal table beside his bed, written in flowing Zephyrian script with his translation device providing the English text below. Princess Lyralei requests the honor of Captain Marcus Chen's presence. For morning meal and cultural exchange. The bonding ceremonies begin in 7 days. 7 days. Marcus felt his stomach drop. He had sent an emergency message to Earth Command last night, but even with faster-than-light communication, it would take at least 3 days to get a response. 3 days to figure out how to handle what might be the most important diplomatic crisis in human history. A soft chime announced a visitor. The crystal door slid open to reveal Princess Lyralei herself, carrying a tray with what looked like breakfast. She had changed from her formal robes into something simpler, a flowing dress that sparkled like starlight but seemed more comfortable. Her 4 arms moved gracefully as she set the tray down and bowed politely. "Good morning, Marcus," she said with a smile that lit up the entire room. "I brought you food from our gardens. I thought you might enjoy trying our morning fruits." Marcus stood up, still wearing the simple sleeping clothes the Zephyrians had provided. "Your Highness, you didn't need to bring breakfast yourself. I'm sure you have servants who could—" "Please, call me Lorelei," she interrupted, her purple eyes twinkling with amusement. "We are to be bonded after all, and I wanted to spend time with you personally. How else can we learn about each other?" She gestured to the floating chairs around the crystal table. Marcus sat down carefully, still not used to furniture that defied gravity. Lorelei took the seat across from him, folding 2 of her arms in her lap while using the other 2 to serve the strange but delicious-smelling breakfast. "Lorelei," Marcus said, testing her name. It felt musical on his tongue. "I need to be honest with you. I'm still very confused about this whole situation." She paused while placing what looked like a glowing purple fruit on his plate. "What confuses you most?" "Everything," Marcus said with a laugh that held no humor. "Yesterday I was a trade negotiator. Today, I'm apparently engaged to an alien princess. My people don't arrange marriages based on energy readings or cosmic forces. We believe in personal choice." Lorelei set down her serving tools and looked at him seriously. "But Marcus, this is personal choice. The universe has chosen us for each other. Our energies called out across the void of space and found perfect harmony. Isn't that the most personal choice of all?" Marcus took a bite of the purple fruit. It tasted like a combination of strawberries and starlight, if starlight had a flavor. "On Earth, we choose our own marriage partners based on love, friendship, shared interests. We spend time together, get to know each other, and then decide if we want to spend our lives together." "That sounds wonderful," Lorelei said, her eyes lighting up. "That's exactly what we should do. Spend time together and get to know each other." "But you already announced we're getting married," Marcus pointed out. "In front of your entire court." Lorelei's expression grew troubled. "Yes, that is complicated. In our culture, once the cosmic bond is announced publicly, it becomes sacred. To break it would bring shame to both families and anger the universal forces." Marcus felt a chill despite the warm crystal room. "What kind of anger?" "Bad fortune for generations," Lorelei said quietly. "Crops would fail, children would be born weak, our energy crystals would lose their power. Both our peoples would suffer." They ate in silence for a few minutes. Marcus's mind raced through possible solutions, but every path seemed to lead to disaster. Finally, Lorelei spoke again. "Marcus, would you let me show you our world today? I think if you understand our ways better, this might seem less frightening." Marcus looked at her hopeful face and realized he didn't have many choices. "All right, Lorelei, show me your world." 2 hours later, Marcus stood on a balcony overlooking the Zephyrian capital city, and his breath was taken away. The buildings were grown rather than built, shaped from living crystal that reached toward the sky like frozen waterfalls. Gardens floated between the towers, connected by bridges of light. Zephyrians moved through the air, using some kind of personal flying device, creating patterns in the sky like schools of fish. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Lorelei said, standing beside him. "Our ancestors learned to work with the planet's natural crystal formations instead of fighting against them. Everything you see is alive in some way." "It's incredible," Marcus said honestly. "On Earth, our cities are made of metal and concrete. They're impressive, but nothing like this." Lorelei's 4 hands gestured excitedly as she pointed out different areas of the city. "That's the learning center, where our children study both science and art together. Those floating gardens provide food for the whole city. And see that tall spire? That's where our energy readers work, studying the cosmic forces that connect all living things. As they walked through the city, Marcus began to understand the Zephyrian culture better. Everything was connected. Their buildings, their people, their technology, even their marriages. They truly believed that cosmic forces guided their lives and that fighting against those forces brought suffering. In the afternoon, Lyra Lay took him to the memory gardens, where crystal trees held the recorded experiences of past generations. She showed him the story of her great-grandmother, who had bonded with a warrior from a distant planet and brought peace between two warring worlds. The cosmic bond isn't just about two people, Lorelei explained as they watched the crystal tree replay the ancient wedding ceremony. It's about bringing different energies together to create something stronger than either could be alone. Marcus found himself studying Lorelei as she spoke. She was clearly intelligent, maybe more intelligent than him. She cared deeply about her people and their welfare. She was patient with his questions and genuinely interested in learning about human culture. In other circumstances, he pushed that thought away. This wasn't other circumstances. That evening, as they shared dinner in Lorelei's private gardens, she asked him about Earth. "Tell me about your family, Marcus. What are they like?" Marcus smiled, thinking of home. "My parents are farmers in the American Midwest. My sister is a doctor and my brother teaches children. They're good people, hardworking, honest, always, willing to help their neighbors." "They sound wonderful," Lorelei said. "I would love to meet them." "What about your family?" Marcus asked. Lorelei's expression grew sad. "My parents died in an accident when I was young. I was raised by the court advisors and the royal tutors. I've always felt alone, despite being surrounded by people." Something in her voice made Marcus look at her more closely. Beneath her royal confidence, he saw something he recognized: loneliness. He knew that feeling well. Being a career diplomat meant always being professional, always representing humanity, never just being Marcus. "That must have been difficult," he said softly. "It was," she admitted. "When the energy readers told me about our cosmic bond, I was excited not just for my people, but for myself. The idea of having someone who truly understands me, who complements my energy." She looked at him with those deep purple eyes. "I'm sorry this is so confusing for you, Marcus. I know our ways must seem strange." Marcus felt that strange warmth in his chest again, stronger this time. "They are strange," he said, "but maybe not wrong, just different." Later that night, alone in his crystal room, Marcus stared out at the alien stars and tried to make sense of his feelings. Lorelei was nothing like he had expected. She was kind, intelligent, lonely, and genuinely trying to make the best of an impossible situation. His communication device chimed with an incoming message from Earth. Marcus's heart pounded as he opened it, knowing this message would determine the fate of two worlds and possibly his own heart. The message was short. "Captain Chen, decision is yours. Earth needs this alliance. Trust your judgment. Command out." Marcus stared at the message for a long time. Then he looked out at the crystal city, thinking about purple eyes and 4 graceful arms, about cosmic bonds and energy harmonies, about a lonely princess who had been kind to a confused human diplomat. Tomorrow, he would have to make a choice that would change everything. Marcus woke to the sound of crystal bells ringing across the city. The morning light streaming through his window was different today, brighter, more golden. He checked his communication device and found a message from Lorelei waiting for him. "Good morning, Marcus. Today begins the trials of bonding. Don't worry, I believe in you. Meet me in the crystal arena when you're ready. L." The trials of bonding. Grand Advisor Zephon had mentioned them yesterday evening, explaining, that any outsider who wished to bond with Zephyrian royalty must prove their worth through 3 ancient tests. Marcus had tried to argue that he hadn't actually agreed to the bonding yet, but the advisor had smiled sadly and said, "The cosmic forces care nothing for our doubts, young human. They only care about our actions." Marcus dressed in the ceremonial clothes that had been left for him, a simple white tunic and pants that seemed to be made of woven starlight. They were surprisingly comfortable and moved with him like a second skin. The crystal arena was located at the heart of the city, a massive dome of clear crystal that rose from the ground like a frozen bubble. Inside, hundreds of Zephyrians had gathered to watch. Their 4-armed silhouettes created intricate patterns in the seats that surrounded the arena floor. Princess Lyralai stood at the center of the arena, wearing formal robes of deep purple that matched her eyes. When she saw Marcus enter, she smiled and gestured for him to join her. "Citizens of Zephyr Prime," she announced, her voice carrying clearly through the crystal dome. "Today, Captain Marcus Chen of Earth will face the trials of bonding. He must prove his courage, his wisdom, and his heart." Grand Advisor Zephon stepped forward, carrying an ancient crystal tablet. "The first trial is the test of courage. Captain Chen must face the Shadow Beast without weapons, using only his wit and bravery." A section of the arena floor opened up, and something dark and terrible emerged. The Shadow Beast looked like a cross between a bear and a spider, with 6 legs, glowing red eyes, and claws that sparkled like black diamonds. The crowd gasped as it roared, a sound like breaking glass mixed with thunder. Marcus felt his heart racing, but he forced himself to think. In his military training, he had learned that most predators relied on fear and intimidation. They expected their prey to run or freeze up. What they didn't expect was strategy. The Shadow Beast charged at him, moving faster than seemed possible. For something so large, Marcus didn't run. Instead, he dropped to the ground and rolled to the side at the last second. The beast's momentum carried it past him, and it crashed into the crystal wall with a loud crack. "Interesting," Marcus muttered to himself. "You're fast, but you can't turn quickly." He began moving in a wide circle around the arena, forcing the beast to follow him. Each time it charged, Marcus would dodge at the last moment, letting the creature tire itself out. The Zephyrian audience watched in fascination as the human used patience and planning instead of strength. After 10 minutes, the Shadow Beast was breathing heavily and moving more slowly. Marcus saw his chance. He grabbed a piece of broken crystal from where the beast had crashed into the wall and held it up like a mirror. When the Shadow Beast charged again, Marcus angled the crystal so that the arena's bright lights reflected directly into the creature's eyes. Blinded and confused, the Shadow Beast stumbled and fell. Marcus quickly climbed onto its back and found a spot behind its head where the fur was softer. He pressed gently but firmly, and the beast suddenly relaxed and lay down. "The pressure point," Lyralai whispered in amazement. "He found the Shadow Beast's sleep pressure point." Grand Advisor Zephon nodded approvingly. "The test of courage is passed. Captain Chen chose intelligence over violence, patience over aggression. The second trial is the test of wisdom." The sleeping Shadow Beast disappeared back into the floor, and a new challenge appeared. 3 crystal pedestals rose from the ground, each holding a different object. A weapon that glowed with energy, a book that seemed to be made of light, and a simple flower that sparkled like a jewel. "Choose one," Zephon said, "but choose wisely, for your choice will determine the fate of a dying village." A holographic image appeared in the air above the pedestals, showing a small Zephyrian village where the crystal trees were withering, and the people looked sick and sad. Marcus studied the 3 objects carefully. The weapon was beautiful and obviously powerful. He could feel its energy from 10 feet away. The book seemed to contain vast knowledge, its pages turning by themselves to show complex diagrams and formulas. The flower looked simple, almost ordinary compared to the other two choices. "What's wrong with the village?" Marcus asked. "Their connection to the cosmic energy has been broken," Zephon explained. "They are cut off from the life force that sustains all Zephyrians." Marcus thought about everything he had learned about Zephyrian culture over the past few days. They believed in harmony, in working with natural forces rather than against them. Their entire civilization was based on the idea that all living things were connected. He walked past the weapon and the book and picked up the simple flower. The moment his fingers touched its petals, the flower began to glow with gentle light. In the holographic village, the crystal trees straightened and began to shine again. The sick Zephyrians stood up, their skin returning to its healthy shimmer. "The flower of connection," Lirelai said softly. He understood that the village didn't need force or knowledge. They needed to remember their place in the cosmic harmony. "The test of wisdom is passed," Zephon announced. "The final trial is the test of heart." But before the third trial could begin, alarms started ringing throughout the crystal dome. Emergency lights flashed red and blue, and the arena's protective shields suddenly activated. "What's happening?" Marcus called out over the noise. Princess Lirelai was listening to something through a communication device in her ear. Her face went pale. "Void Hunters," she said. "A scouting force has broken through our outer defenses. They're heading directly for the capital." The crowd began to panic, but Marcus felt a strange calm come over him. This was something he understood. Enemy attack, people in danger, time to act. He ran to Lirelai's side. "How many?" he asked. "At least 50 scout ships," she replied, her four hands moving quickly over a holographic control panel that had appeared in the air. "They're small but fast, and armed with energy disruptors." "What are your defenses?" "The city shields can hold them off for maybe an hour," Lirelai said, "but our main defense fleet is on patrol in the outer system. They won't be back in time." Marcus looked around the arena. Hundreds of Zephyrians were trying to evacuate in an orderly fashion, but he could see the fear in their eyes. These were not warriors. They were artists, scientists, gardeners. They had lived in peace for so long that they had almost forgotten how to fight. But Marcus remembered. "Lirelai," he said, grabbing her upper two hands. "Do you trust me?" She looked into his eyes and saw something there that made her straighten her shoulders. "Yes. Then we're going to turn this arena into a trap." For the next 20 minutes, Marcus worked with Lirelai and her advisors to prepare the city's defenses. He explained human military tactics they had never heard of, how to use the crystal buildings as mirrors to confuse enemy sensors, how to create false energy signatures to make the Void Hunters think the population was larger than it was, how to turn the city's transportation system into a maze that would separate the attacking forces. When the Void Hunters arrived, they found what they expected: a beautiful, defenseless crystal city. What they didn't expect was the human in the arena, coordinating a defense that combined Zephyrian technology with human cunning. The battle was short but fierce. The Void Hunters' mechanical ships crashed into crystal barriers that appeared and disappeared like magic. Their energy weapons were reflected back at them by the city's mirrored buildings. Their formation was broken apart by sudden changes in the city's gravity fields. In the middle of it all, Marcus and Lirelai worked together like they had been partners for years. She would use her people's energy manipulation to create shields and barriers, while he predicted where the enemy would strike next and positioned their defenses accordingly. The final Void Hunter ship fell just as the Zephyrian defense fleet arrived from the outer system. The threat was over, but Marcus and Lirelai barely noticed. They were standing together in the center of the arena, breathing heavily, her four hands holding his two hands, both of them covered in crystal dust and glowing with the adrenaline of victory. "The test of heart," Grand Advisor Zephon said quietly, "is not about choosing the right answer. It is about choosing to protect those you care about, even when it costs you everything." Marcus looked at Lyrelay, really looked at her. Her purple eyes were bright with pride and something deeper. Her crystalline skin was glowing with inner light. She was brave, intelligent, and had fought beside him without hesitation. "I think," Marcus said slowly, "I'm beginning to understand what cosmic harmony means." Lyrelay smiled, and for the first time since he had arrived on Zephyr Prime, Marcus felt like he was exactly where he belonged. 3 days after the Void Hunter attack, Marcus stood in his crystal room looking out at the city. The damage from the battle was already being repaired. Crystal buildings grew back together like healing wounds, and the floating gardens bloomed. Brighter than before, but Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A soft chime announced a visitor. Princess Lyrelay entered, but instead of her usual warm smile, her face was troubled. "Marcus, we need to talk," she said, closing the door behind her. Privately, she activated a small device that created a shimmering bubble around them. "Privacy. Shield," she explained. "No one can hear us now." Marcus sat down on his floating chair. "What's wrong? You've seemed worried since yesterday." Lyrelay paced across the room, her forearms moving nervously. "Our intelligence officers have been studying the wreckage from the Void Hunter ships. They found something disturbing." She pulled out a holographic projector and activated it. Images of mechanical parts floated in the air between them. Twisted metal, broken circuits, and strange symbols. "These aren't random scout ships," Lyrelay continued. "They were specifically designed to gather information about our defenses, our population centers, and—" She paused, looking directly at Marcus. "Our wedding ceremony." Marcus felt cold despite the warm crystal air. "They were spying on the wedding?" "More than that," Lyrelay said grimly. "We found detailed plans in their computer systems. The Void Hunters know that leaders from dozens of allied worlds will attend our bonding ceremony. They're planning a massive attack during the wedding, when all the most important people in our alliance will be gathered in one place." Marcus stood up, his mind already working through the implications. "They want to decapitate the entire alliance, leadership in one strike." "Exactly," Lyrelay said. "If they succeed, dozens of worlds will be left without their rulers. The alliance will collapse, and the Void Hunters can consume our civilizations one by one." They stared at each other in silence for a moment. Finally, Marcus spoke. "We have to cancel the wedding." "We can't," Lyrelay said sadly. "The invitations have already been sent. If we cancel now, the other leaders will think we're weak or that the alliance is unstable. Some might even leave the alliance entirely, which is exactly what the Void Hunters want." Marcus ran his hands through his hair, thinking hard. "What if we don't cancel it? What if we use it?" Lyrelay tilted her head, confused. "Use it how?" A slow smile spread across Marcus's face. "What if we turn their trap into our trap?" For the next hour, Marcus explained his plan. It was risky, complicated, and required perfect timing. But if it worked, they could destroy the Void Hunter fleet and strengthen the alliance at the same time. "It's brilliant," Lyrelay said when he finished. "Dangerous, but brilliant. Very human." "Will your people agree to it?" Marcus asked. "They'll have to," Lyrelay said, "because the alternative is much worse." The next 2 days were a whirlwind of secret preparations. On the surface, everything appeared normal. Wedding guests arrived from across the galaxy. The tall, elegant Arctunians with their silver skin, the small but fierce Corvan warriors, the peaceful plant people from the verdant worlds. The crystal cathedral was decorated with flowers from 100 different planets. But beneath the celebration, Marcus and Lyrelay were coordinating the largest military deception in galactic history. Human ships from Earth arrived disguised as wedding party vessels. Zephyrian military units hid inside the crystal buildings surrounding the cathedral. Energy weapons were concealed within the wedding decorations themselves. The beautiful crystal flower arrangements could transform into defensive turrets at a moment's notice. Marcus stood in the groom's preparation chamber, adjusting his formal wedding clothes. They were beautiful, made of Zephyrian crystal silk that shimmered like captured starlight. But hidden beneath the elegant fabric was lightweight human battle armor. Grand Advisor Zephon entered the chamber, looking nervous. "Captain Chen, the guests are all seated. Princess Lyralai is ready, and our sensors have detected the Void Hunter fleet approaching. They'll be here in exactly 1 hour." Marcus nodded. "Perfect timing. Is everyone in position?" "Yes," Zephon said. "Though I must admit, I'm terrified this plan won't work." "It'll work," Marcus said with more confidence than he felt. "It has to." The Crystal Cathedral was the most beautiful building Marcus had ever seen. Its walls were made of pure crystal that reached toward the sky like frozen music. Inside, representatives from 50 different worlds sat in harmony, their various shapes and colors creating a living rainbow. Princess Lyralai walked down the aisle toward him, and Marcus forgot to breathe. She wore a gown made of liquid starlight that flowed around her like captured moonbeams. Her 4 arms carried flowers from both their worlds, earth roses and Zephyrian crystal blossoms. Her purple eyes met his, and he saw not just love there, but absolute trust. When she reached him at the altar, she whispered, "Ready for this?" "Ready," Marcus whispered back. The ceremony began with ancient Zephyrian rituals that celebrated the harmony between different forms of life. Representatives from each allied world came forward to offer blessings in their own languages. It was beautiful, peaceful, and exactly what the Void Hunters would expect from a diplomatic wedding. 30 minutes into the ceremony, Marcus's hidden communication device vibrated against his wrist, the signal he had been waiting for. "Now," he whispered to Lyralai. She nodded and raised her hands. "Honored guests," she announced, "before we complete our bonding, we have a special surprise for you." The crystal walls of the cathedral suddenly became transparent, revealing the space around the planet. And there, just entering the atmosphere, was the Void Hunter fleet, hundreds of dark ships shaped like metal insects. The wedding guests gasped in alarm, but Marcus stepped forward. "Don't be afraid," he said, his voice carrying clearly through. "The cathedral. This is exactly what we expected." At his signal, the hidden defenses throughout the city activated. The crystal buildings lit up with energy weapons. The flower arrangements in the cathedral transformed into defensive turrets. Human and Zephyrian ships that had been hiding behind the planet's moons suddenly appeared, surrounding the Void Hunter fleet. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Void Hunters found themselves trapped between the planet's surface defenses and the Allied fleet. Their formations scattered as energy beams and missile fire came at them from every direction. But the most devastating surprise was the cathedral itself. Marcus and Lyralai stood together at the altar, their hands joined, channeling both human tactical coordination and Zephyrian energy manipulation. The entire cathedral became a giant energy-focusing device, turning the wedding ceremony into a weapon of incredible power. "This is for all the worlds you've destroyed," Marcus said grimly, as he and Lyralai directed a massive energy beam at the Void Hunter command ship. The beam struck the enemy flagship and tore through its hull like paper. The explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. One by one, the Void Hunter ships fell. Their advanced technology was no match for the combined might of the Galactic Alliance, guided by human strategy and powered by Zephyrian energy mastery. When the last enemy ship exploded, the cathedral erupted in cheers. Representatives from 50 worlds stood and applauded, not just for the military victory, but for the courage and cleverness of the human and Zephyrian who had saved them all. Marcus and Lyralai stood at the center of it all, still holding hands, both of them glowing with victory and exhaustion. The crystal walls around them reflected their light, creating patterns of hope and triumph that danced across the cathedral. "I think," Lorelei said breathlessly, "that was the most memorable wedding ceremony in galactic history." Marcus laughed, pulling her closer. "And we're not even married yet." Grand Advisor Zephon stepped forward, holding the ancient bonding crystals. "Perhaps we should fix that right now?" The wedding guests settled back into their seats, smiling and chattering excitedly about the battle they had just witnessed. Outside the crystal walls, the debris of the Void Hunter fleet sparkled like deadly stars against the purple sky. As the bonding ceremony continued, Marcus realized that somewhere between the trials and the battle, his feelings for Lorelei had changed completely. This wasn't just about diplomacy or cosmic forces anymore. This was about the incredible woman standing beside him, brave enough to fight an alien fleet and kind enough to bring him breakfast in bed. When Grand Advisor Zephon asked if he chose to accept the cosmic bond freely and willingly, Marcus looked into Lorelei's purple eyes and smiled. "I do," he said, and meant it with his whole heart. 1 month after the battle at the Crystal Cathedral, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the starship New Harmony, watching the construction of humanity's first joint colony with an alien species. The massive space station took shape slowly, human steel and concrete growing alongside Zephyrian living crystal in patterns that looked like frozen music against the stars. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Princess Lorelei said, joining him at the viewing window. She still wore her royal title, but now she also wore a simple gold ring on one of her 4 hands, a human tradition she had adopted alongside the Zephyrian bonding crystals that glowed softly at her throat. "More beautiful than I ever imagined," Marcus said, slipping his arm around her waist. Even after a month of marriage, he still felt amazed that this incredible woman was his partner in life. The past month had been a whirlwind of changes. The victory over the Void Hunters had sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Dozens of worlds that had been living in fear suddenly saw hope. The alliance between Earth and Zephyr Prime had grown into something much larger, a true galactic confederation dedicated to mutual protection and cooperation. "Captain Chen to the bridge, please," came the announcement over the ship's communication system. Marcus sighed. "Duty calls." "Our duty calls," Lorelei corrected with a smile. "We're partners in this, remember?" They walked together through the corridors of the New Harmony, a ship that represented everything their marriage had come to symbolize. Human technology and Zephyrian energy systems worked together seamlessly. The crew was mixed. Humans and Zephyrians working side by side, learning from each other, becoming something new. On the bridge, Admiral Sarah Martinez, Marcus's former commanding officer, was waiting with a holographic display showing the outer rim of the galaxy. "Marcus, Lorelei," she said with a respectful nod, "we've received a distress signal from the Kepler system. 3 colony worlds are under attack by Void Hunter survivors." Marcus studied the tactical display. "How many ships?" "At least 200, Admiral Martinez replied. "More than we've seen since the main fleet was destroyed. They're being led by something called a Harvester Prime, apparently one of their command vessels that escaped the battle here." Lorelei's purple eyes glowed with determination. "The Kepler colonies have over 50 million people," she said. "We can't let them be destroyed." "Agreed," Marcus said. "But 200 Void Hunter ships is a lot, even for our combined fleet." "Actually," Admiral Martinez said with a slight smile, "we have some good news on that front." The holographic display changed to show a massive fleet assembling near the colony station. Marcus counted ships from at least 20 different worlds: the sleek silver vessels of the Arctunians, the heavily armored ships of the Corvan warriors, the living bioships of the verdant worlds, and many others he didn't recognize. "Word of your victory has spread," Admiral Martinez explained. Worlds that have been hiding from the Void Hunters for decades are finally ready to fight back. They're calling it the Liberation Fleet. Marcus felt a surge of pride and responsibility. A year ago, he had been a simple trade negotiator. Now he was helping lead a galactic war against mechanical monsters that consumed entire civilizations. "How long do we have?" he asked. "The Kepler colonies can hold out for maybe 3 days," Admiral Martinez said. "The Liberation Fleet can. Be ready to move in 6 hours." Marcus looked at Lyreley, and she nodded. They had discussed this possibility many times over the past month. When the moment came to lead their people into battle, they would do it together. "Signal all ships," Marcus said. "We're going to save Kepler." 6 hours later, the largest fleet in galactic history jumped into hyperspace. Marcus and Lyreley stood together on the bridge of the flagship, watching the stars stretch into lines of light as they traveled faster than the speed of light toward a battle that would determine the fate of billions. "Nervous?" Lyreley asked, her 4 hands working over the energy coordination controls. "Terrified," Marcus admitted. "But also excited. We're not just fighting for survival anymore, we're fighting for the future." When they dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system, the sight that greeted them was both horrible and inspiring. The 3 colony worlds were surrounded by a swarm of dark void hunter ships, their energy weapons raining destruction on the planetary shields. But the colonies were fighting back with everything they had, their defensive platforms and orbital stations blazing with weapon fire. "All ships, this is Captain Chen," Marcus announced over the fleet communication system. "Remember the plan. We hit them fast, we hit them hard, and we don't let a single Void Hunter escape to terrorize another world." The battle that followed became known as the Liberation of Kepler, and songs would be sung about it for generations. The Void Hunters found themselves caught between the defending colonies and the massive Liberation Fleet. Human tactical genius combined with alien technologies created combinations the mechanical invaders had never seen before. Zephyrian energy. Beams channeled through Arctunian focusing crystals became weapons of incredible power. Corvan warriors used human stealth technology to launch surprise attacks. The bioships of the verdant worlds carried human marines who could fight in environments that would kill most organic beings. At the center of it all, Marcus and Lyreley coordinated the battle like a perfectly synchronized dance. His strategic mind and her energy manipulation abilities complemented each other so well that other commanders began calling them the Harmony, 2 beings who had become something greater together. The turning point came when they faced the Harvester Prime, a massive Void Hunter ship the size of a small moon. Its weapons could destroy entire fleets, and its armor seemed impenetrable. "I have an idea," Lyreley said, her eyes glowing with inner light. "But it's dangerous." "I trust you," Marcus said immediately. "What do you need?" "Channel the entire fleet's energy through the harmonic resonance we discovered during our bonding ceremony," she said. "If we can synchronize every ship in the fleet." Marcus understood immediately. "We turned the entire Liberation Fleet into one giant weapon." It took 15 minutes of careful coordination, but slowly, ship by ship, the entire fleet began to pulse with synchronized energy. Human ships, Zephyrian vessels, Arctunian cruisers, Corvan battleships, all of them working together in perfect harmony. When Lyreley released the combined energy in a focused beam, it tore through the Harvester Prime like it was made of paper. The explosion lit up 3 star systems and marked the end of the Void Hunter threat forever. In the aftermath of the victory, as rescue ships rushed to help the damaged colonies and the Liberation Fleet celebrated their triumph, Marcus and Lyreley found a quiet moment alone on the observation deck. "We did it," Marcus said, holding her close. "We actually saved the galaxy." "We all did it together," Lyreley corrected. "Humans, Zephyrians, Arctunians, Corvans, everyone. That's what makes us stronger than the Void Hunters. They consume and destroy, but we build and create." Marcus looked out at the stars, thinking about the future. The Void Hunter threat was over, but there would be new challenges. Worlds to rebuild, alliances to strengthen, new civilizations to meet and befriend. "What happens now?" he asked. Lyrelai smiled, her purple eyes reflecting the starlight. "Now we build the future we fought for. A galaxy where different species work together, where no one has to face the darkness alone." "Together," Marcus said. "Together," she agreed. As they watched, the first ships of the new galactic reconstruction fleet began forming up around the colony station. Ships from dozens of worlds, carrying supplies, medical aid, and hope to every corner of the galaxy. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the same spot on the observation deck, but now he wasn't alone. Lyrelai was beside him, as always, but they were also surrounded by representatives from over 100 different worlds, the First Galactic Council, meeting to draft the charter for a new kind of civilization. "Captain Chen," said Ambassador Cathexa of the Verdant Worlds, her plant-like form swaying gently, "your people have given us something we thought was lost forever, hope for the future." "All our people did that," Marcus replied. "Humans just brought one thing to the partnership: the belief that anything is possible when different beings work together." As the meeting continued, Marcus thought about how much had changed since that day when he first walked into the Zephyrian throne room as a confused trade negotiator. He had found not just love, but purpose, not just a wife, but a partner in building something greater than either of their species could achieve alone. The cosmic forces that the Zephyrians believed in had indeed brought them together, but it wasn't magic or destiny that made their bond work. It was choice. Every day they chose to understand each other, to support each other, to dream together of a better future. Looking out at the stars that now represented not conquest or fear, but infinite possibilities for cooperation and growth, Marcus smiled. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and he and Lyrelai would explore it together, one world at a time, building bridges between civilizations and proving that love really could conquer the darkness. "Ready for the next adventure?" Lyrelai asked, taking his hand. Marcus squeezed her fingers gently and smiled. "With you? Always."